Hi, everyone, and welcome to our second week in leadership communication. And this week, what I want to do in this video is simply point out a couple of things, maybe more than a couple, that I really want you to pay attention to. The first thing has to do with something that you read in the Barrett textbook, the first chapter, and it has to do with ethos. I want you to pay particularly attention to what the author is saying about ethos and what that communicates. It's closely related, of course, to the whole concept of ethical. And I want to underline this because this is going to be a factor throughout the course. Ethical communication, communication that is honest, communication that is authentic, communication that is professional. And that's what we're looking at throughout this course is how can we make sure that our communication is professional and not sloppy or casual or misunderstood. And we want to make every effort to make sure that our message gets across. So that was in last week's reading, and I'd like you to just take a moment and go back and look at that particular piece. The author doesn't write too much about it, but I think it's vital it has to be at the center of our communication. And this week, what I really want you to concentrate on is found on page 29 of our text, and it has to do with establishing a clear purpose for communication. Begin to think about every piece of communication that you, however you do it, with email, with a voice message, with personal speaking face to face, whatever it is, whatever you have to communicate, think in terms of what is the purpose. And she mentions four on page 29. I want you to look at that very carefully because this also goes to your last assignment, your video presentation. In your video presentation, it needs to be clear what the purpose is of your presentation, what you're talking about. Frequently with emails, especially if I'm sending them to several different people, I will say, you are receiving this email because, so that people understand. I hate to read halfway through an email and then figure out, oh, this wasn't for me. So that's part of the thing I want you to pay attention to. The other thing that Barrett does in the chapter that you're going to read on social media is that she includes email in social media. I doubt that most people would do that. The TED Talk you're going to see has to do with social media. Social media is something that many organizations, especially large ones, make use of. Some of them have their own platform. And people are wrestling more now with their understanding of social media than ever before. If you want some interesting information, just go to TED Talk, tedtalk.com or .org, I forget which one it is, and type in a search in the search box social media and see what kinds of talks you come up with. But as apart from that, apart from deciding how you're going to use social media in your personal life, how you use it in your work life, I want you to remember what you read in the online book by I've forgotten the two authors, that online ebook, is that whatever is put out there on the internet does not ever go away. So keep that in mind. And I want to underscore the whole some of the information about email, because there's some good information in the ebook on how to write emails, what to avoid. I think that is that chapter that you'll be reading in that chapter 2, I believe it is extremely important. So check that out. One of the most important things you can do with writing email, it's sometimes simple, sometimes not so simple, is make sure that the subject line declares exactly what your email is about. The subject line. When I get an email from a student that says no subject, I have no idea whether I should read that immediately or if it's something that I can wait on. I have no idea. So when I look and see what the subject is, then that determines where it falls in my priorities of responding. So there are all kinds of ideas out there about in both in your hardback textbook and in the ebook. The ebook is especially pertinent. I like their suggestions a lot. They're a lot more practical. So take a look at those, and you will be filling out the Excel spread, the self. I've forgotten what it is, a self-evaluation on your communication. What I want you to notice is that, first of all, communication has to do with a lot of different areas. You will find there emotional intelligence. You will find different pieces of communication that maybe you have never had to think about before and never used. External communication, for example, in the way that, and this is something that you're taking the self evaluation without having studied all of those areas, but do the best you can with it, because this is an exercise in helping you understand, okay, where do I do well? What do I think what areas of communication do I think I will be using in my career? And then how do I improve those areas? And the possible areas that maybe I might use later on, what do I need to do about those? So the self evaluation and your comments are important. This is this is a professional paper. So write it as if you'd taken the self evaluation for your supervisor, and you are responding to the questions as if your supervisor is asking you those questions. So keep that in mind. I think that's all I have for you now. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, please send me an email, let me know. And thank you for the good conversation around the Julian Treasure um, TED Talk. So enjoy this week's TED Talk. Think about it. And I will be in contact next week. All right. Thanks so much.